So we've got Sue Barnes from Sue Barnes Health. Is that what we're calling you?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, I'm going to repeat that then.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Louise Bibby from the Get Up and Go Guru, and today we've got Sue Barnes from Sue Barnes Health with us. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you.
So we're going to start with just finding out a little bit of background about you.
Yeah.
So could you just tell us, for a start, tell us what you currently do as your role or position, and then we'll discuss how you got into this field, and then we'll go on further.
Okay. Well, basically, I'm a registered natural therapist, not a naturopath. That's a little different. A natural therapist. My modalities have included herbalism and homeopathy in the past, but essentially I'm a practitioner and I'm trained in a medicine known as biological and functional medicine. Now, that's a stream of medicine that's fairly common in Europe, not so much out here, but it was such a mouthful. I thought it was too long a title to put out on the shingle. But biological and functional medicine is about the understanding of how our body works and interacts with different processes and organs, and how that influences and maintains our health. So it's how everything runs together, if you like. We don't treat something in isolation. A good example of that is if you've got some sort of skin disorder, 99 times out of 100 that comes from some sort of toxicity within the body. So that's what I'm looking for. And also detoxification. You know, your body uses the skin to detoxify itself. So we need to divert those toxins to other pathways or get rid of them. So it's looking at the body as a whole, and over the last decade or more that I've been practicing biological and functional medicine, I've always had the privilege of using equipment known as EAV, which is a type of technical equipment that measures microvolts of electricity on the surface of the skin, and that's in relationship to the perfect frequency or magnetic signature of all the organs in the body and processes. So for me, it's been a fairly consistent and straightforward task of actually reading what's going on in a client's body, and then looking at what remedies need to be employed to bring that person back to balance. So I've had a fair amount of success really, and that is because I'm not guessing. I can actually read the functioning in your body and where it's not functioning, if you like, because of the changes in electromagnetic signatures.
Mm-hmm. Do many people have these EAV machines?
Yes, there's been a series of EAV type equipments in Australia since the 1970s. Forerunners would be known as the Mora machines or the Vega machines. Many would be familiar with those names. The system that I use was designed by Dr. Stephen Ding, my mentor, who's back in China now. He's no longer in Australia. He designed the functional matrix system, which is just the best of both worlds, I guess, of the Vega and the Mora. One was better at testing than treating, and the other vice versa. So he designed equipment and put together a pretty awesome piece of testing. And then he also designed, and this is what is quite rare, a scalar energy treatment device. Now, scalar energy was originally discovered, if you like, by the French in the 1970s, French government scientists, and was removed from their care and went elsewhere, and basically has only re-emerged as a treatment for people in the 1990s. And Dr. Stephen Ding, who's an engineer as well as a medico, he built the scalar device that I use, and that's an extraordinary piece of equipment that accelerates the restoration of health and in the body to the power of 5. So it's been a great boon to my practice to be able to not only detect what's going on, make recommendations for people in regard to their lifestyle and their nutrition, but also to accelerate the restoration of balance in the body.
Mm-hmm. And so you work to restore the balance, but then this machine times it by 5. The power.
Yes, times 5, and you know it's not. Sorry, not times 5. It's to the power of 5.
To the power of 5.
So it's not like squared. It's to the power of 5. So that's extraordinary in terms of the accelerated path towards the body recuperating. And it has worked very, very, very well now. And there's only, to my knowledge, now with Dr. Ding gone back to China, there's probably only 4 left in the country of these devices. And I've got 2 of them, so that's pretty good, isn't it? Given that I have 2 practices.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're based here in Ballarat.
I am primarily based here in Ballarat, yes.
And so we might just take a step back and talk about how you came to be a natural therapist. So.
My background, just briefly visiting my childhood, always I've been interested in medicine. Even preschool, I used to spend my time tracing bones and anatomy and things like that. So medicine was always going to be my passion. When I graduated from high school and started doing my degree, I was doing it at night school and working full-time in hospitals. I was training as a medical scientist and working in pathology. Now, as life would have it, I didn't quite finish my medical science degree. I ran away and joined the Navy because that was much more fun. And I've had various careers over the last 30 or more years of my working life. But I keep coming back to medicine, and what happened for me, is quite often happens to many in their 40s, is they have a major health crisis, and nothing brings your attention back to health more than your own not health. So that actually refocused my energies back to what's going on here. I nearly lost my kidneys actually. And I was introduced through a set of circumstances to Dr. Stephen Ding, and he introduced me to this medicine, and I'm probably very grateful I didn't finish my medical science degree, although all that knowledge I still use. It would have tied me into a system that I'd probably work better on the fringes of. And that includes, sort of using homeopathy as well as herbs and supplements to stimulate the body to heal itself. It's this trusting in the body, getting back to the force of life in the human being is just extraordinary. And if you can harness that and work with that, as I often say to my patients, if you start working towards your health and take this out or put this in your diet, your body will, move so fast your head will spin. And it's been proven time and time again. Your body only wants to be well. Your body doesn't wake up, clap its hands and say, I'm going to do diabetes. The body is designed for wellness, just as we're designed for happiness. Which is why I think a get up and go guru is a very good friend to have. But anyway, so that's how I got into this medicine. It was a health crisis that Dr. Stephen Ding saw me through very smartly, and I just knew that this was what I wanted to do. When you feel that passion in you, this is what I came to do. And so I stalked Stephen, basically, and said, teach me, and he did. And so then I qualified as a herbalist to actually give myself a qualification to start practicing and working within the auspices of recognised organisations, and I've been doing this work for over a decade now. So that's how I got into the biological and functional medicine. It makes more sense to me than separating out parts of the body, just focusing on that as if it's the be-all and end-all. And
does it also work on the... do you also work with the emotional health of your patients?
Not directly, but absolutely if you want to call it the X factor, we're always looking for the X factor, and even though now I've included, and I can't wait to talk about this, DNA profiling and working directly with DNA, your blueprint, in my work, ultimately, to me, there's always that X factor. Why do 90 people get well and 10 people don't? To me, the X factor has always been the human spirit, and the emotional and mental expression of who we are enormously affects our body, physiology. So I primarily focus on physiology. I'm very aware of the mental and emotional health requisite for the whole person to actually recover completely and be their first best self. But I'm focused primarily in the work that I do on the physical.
Yeah. So you mentioned briefly the DNA profiling. Can you tell us a bit about that and how you got into that?
DNA profiling is the latest, you could call it trend in medicine. I work with quite a few doctors and have association, on chat and the internet with many doctors actually. Since the decoding of the human genome, there was a big announcement worldwide in 2003 when they decoded the human genome. Since then, the work and the research that's been going on has been nothing short of phenomenal, including now we actually understand the mechanism by which our cells slow down and age, and we know how to turn it up again. So what I am saying, and this is exciting, we can reverse age now. And we're doing this every single day. The other aspect, though, that is really important for me, working with people, because people don't come to me when they're in the peak of health, they usually come when there's something not quite right. The other aspect of DNA is that doing DNA profiling and understanding the mechanisms in your particular body, what's working for you, what genes you've got, given that we have 2 genes for everything, a minimum of 2 genes, but every process has 2 genes. We get one from mum and one from dad. So we can have 2 perfect genes, we can have a great gene and a dodgy gene, or we can have 2 dodgy genes, which means there are certain functions in our body that have never worked correctly and will never work correctly because we are genetically not able to enact those processes. And knowing now how to introduce a particular enzyme or vegetable, a supplement, an amino acid, protein, in other words, put that in to bypass what your body can't do, we can actually now, and this is what I am focusing on, is a science called nutrigenomics, which is the nutritional control of your genes. We now know through science that we turn on and turn off our genes by the food we eat, by the stress in our bodies, by the exercise we do. Some people should not be marathon runners. Some people should just pump iron, if you like, or just do resistance exercises, because there are many circumstances in the body that have to do with inflammation or detoxification, where these processes are compromised because of your DNA, and all you're doing is making things worse in your body. So we can nail this now. We can actually sit down and do a profile of genes. They've been doing genetic markers that indicate certain cancer pathways. For example, there's the BRCA gene for the female breast cancer. To get that one gene tested costs a couple of $1,000, but you can also get a series of genes, like I do 2 main profiles. So I can test up to 54 genes in a particular profile, for example, for much less than that. And look at all the functions in your body and how they work together. And that's what's important to me, because if you know what to do to bypass the shortfalls in your own biology, you can have extraordinary health. Because on the one hand now we can reverse your aging, and you can have a 30-year-old body for a very, 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 very long time. In fact, infinitely, really. But why would you be young and very sick? You need to know the shortfalls in your own biology. And those 2 things married together make the work that I do now just so very exciting.
And you said that you test like 54 genes. And I know you've mentioned to me before that they're in certain groups. Can you explain a bit about that?
Primarily, what we're looking at here for health is that preceding any chronic degenerative disease that you may get, and I'm talking about anything from Alzheimer's to cancer to diabetes. It doesn't matter the label. In fact, the doctors I'm working with don't care too much for labels anymore. The processes in our body are primarily concerned with inflammation, circulation, and detoxification. And we also look very specifically at cardiovascular health and genetics and metabolism and fat metabolism. Exciting stuff there. There's a new product coming out that I'll be accessing in about October this year, 2013, that over 3 months turns on permanently all your fat burning cells. So what we're doing now, what science is doing now with food, so it is so safe with herbs in terms of these processes in your body, that if you get your inflammation down, make sure all your circulation, both blood and your lymph system, is working really well, and that your detoxification processes aren't compromised, then you have the groundwork or the foundation to have extraordinary health. And if you also know how to avoid getting the diabetes or have the heart attack that your parents have had or grandparents have had, couple those things together and you're looking pretty good.
Well, quite a lot of people would say, eating a balanced diet, you should have this health. Well, anyway, if people are eating well, what would you say about that?
I would say, strictly speaking, and in theory, that is correct. However, there have been massive changes to our processes of agriculture and food processing, and in essence, I would say this, that the body needs, for example, 60 different minerals a day. We're lucky if we're getting 10 or 12 in our food chain. There is not the minerals in the soil anymore. So even the best agricultural processes can only produce vegetables and fruit, if you like, that have only got a limited amount of minerals in it. We have to supplement certain things now. So if you're very sensibly having your meat and 3 veg, you're good balance, or you're a vegetarian or you're a raw foodist, which is pretty healthy way to live in a lot of ways, you're still not able, just through eating everyday dietary meals, to get the nutrition that we need.
And so do the herbs supplement that?
Not herbs per se, but certainly minerals. I don't think you'll find anyone that I've seen over the last 12 or more years that I've not said you need a colloidal mineral supplement every day. You've got to put in what is not in the food chain. Mm-hmm. There are also other issues there about toxicity. We use a lot of chemicals to process our food, to grow our food. We've genetically modified some things. See, this is the other side of the coin. We're not 100% sure about the effects of all these things yet when you alter natural things on the planet. Certainly, in the wild, you won't get 2 different species of vegetables cross-pollinated, cross-fertilising, or crossing over. They do these kinds of things in laboratories, which the jury's not in yet in terms of what's going on there and the effect on our bodies. But I'm working more strictly with the individual nutritional need or trigger, if you like, that upregulates and downregulates very specific genes in your body to create better health. And that's something I can do very, very precisely.
Can you give us an example of that?
Okay, I'll give myself as an example. I have 2 dodgy genes, thanks Mum, thanks Dad, in relation to my vasodilation. So inside my arteries, in the centre of my arteries where blood flows, when you need to run, for example, the inside wall expands out and creates a larger volume of blood flow. Now, I've always struggled with certain forms of exercise, and now I know why. This is one of the greatest reliefs too, that I'm not just a sook. I have 2 dodgy genes in the vasodilator called the enos gene, and what that means is that my body genetically doesn't produce a substance called nitrous oxide to be released into my blood to expand the inner wall so that I can actually run and exercise and keep going. I mean, I'm the person that goes for 100 metres and then I'm saber-toothed tiger lunch, You all get away, he's feasting on me because I've got nothing left. Now, if I put into my diet, for example, which I do every day, celery and beetroot, which have really good levels of nitrous oxide, if I have that juice half an hour prior to exercise, I can go like a tramp now. I can really get down to it. But if I haven't got that and I want to really exercise, I can also, there are certain supplements like nitric factor is one that I use here in the clinic, and if I take a fizzy drink of that, same thing. I am putting in the nitrous oxide my body needs to vasodilate that in fact my genes can't. So I can manually override that block, and now I can run and play.
Excellent.
How good is that? So that's just one example. There are many, many, many examples.
Yeah.
mostly to do with, why some of us get sick faster and age faster. It's because you've probably got slightly dodgy inflammatory genetics, which means that just a little bit of something or a little bit of stress and your insides are flaming up pretty quickly. And even though inflammation is our friend and actually fights the enemy and fights toxins and serves us very well, too much inflammation attacks our own tissues and makes us ill. And that's where we begin to see the signs of all chronic degenerative disease.
Mm-hmm. Is that oxidization, like antioxidants?
Antioxidants is part of that. For example, some people haven't got the gene that releases the manganese superoxidant dismutase. That's an enzyme that neutralises more toxins and radical oxidization, as you call it, inside the cells of our body more than any other enzyme. And if you haven't got the gene that makes you produce that, then you're going to have a lot of issues around neutralising oxidization, or rust, if you like, on the inside of your body. Different again to actually putting in toxins. Everything we eat, the air we breathe, the water we drink, has some sort of a toxin in it. A toxin being anything that the human body can't use or process. For example, caffeine is a toxin. It's not a poison, it's a toxin. We're not born with normal levels of caffeine. We drink the stuff, and I've been very guilty of that one. And it has effects in our body, but our body neutralises it and turns it into a free radical, and then neutralises it with an antioxidant and takes it out of the body. If those processes are compromised, then we start filling up with lots of inflammatory triggers, and that's when things go wrong.
So that process is compromised in some people with their certain genetic makeup.
Exactly right. So some people can't detoxify. Their phase 1 doesn't work, or their phase 2 doesn't work, and so if you might be one of those people that if you've gone along and I'm just going to detox and you trigger detoxification in your body, what happens is you suddenly get worse, you feel more sick. That's because that one part of your detoxification is working and it's created a bottleneck on the second part that's not working, and so you feel worse and you create more inflammation. And all these things we know and we can nail through genetic profiling, and also I've been doing that for some time with the machine. It's just that the genetics, why I'm so passionate about it and excited about it, is that we nail it. We absolutely know what's going on for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, specific to the individual.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you mentioned before you have celery and broccoli daily. So that's not just having a stick of celery and a little bit of broccoli in your dinner, is it?
You can actually have them raw for the same effect. This is the advantage of raw food, which is why they would call the Mediterranean diet one of the best diets, because we might cook our meat, but in fact we're having a lot of fresh vegetables. When you cook something, you destroy the enzymes. Now, the thing about enzymes, they are absolutely essential to our life. In fact, it's what DNA transcription creates as enzymes. And when we cook our food, we destroy enzymes. And so we need our body to fund enzymes to digest the food, for example, but we don't get the benefit. So every morning for breakfast, I have a juice that contains celery, carrots, cucumber, beetroot, and broccoli, and I have them raw, because it's only when I have them raw do I get the benefit of the vitamins and the enzymes and minerals that my body needs.
Mm-hmm. And are those other ones for a specific reason?
Oh, yes, but it would take me an hour and a half just to walk through those.
Yeah,
broccoli you mentioned, I hadn't actually mentioned broccoli. It was celery and beetroot, which was the nitrous oxide.
Yeah.
But broccoli is an amazing vegetable. I'm getting T-shirts made, broccoli is my new best friend, because nutrigenomically, in other words, nutritionally controlling your gene expression, broccoli is second to none. Second to none. It has an enzyme, orygenase, and a compound in it that when they come together in our body, they produce a substance called sulforaphane. Now, sulforaphane is the only substance we know in enough quantities in broccoli, for example, in that particular vegetable, of all the vegetables, that will upregulate sufficiently a gene called NRF2. Now, when you upregulate that activity, the capacity for health changes in your body is quite extraordinary. It actually causes the release of enzymes that neutralise 1 million toxins every minute in every cell in your body. You can't beat that. If you're taking an antioxidant, for example, you mentioned before, then if you take 5 milligrams of an antioxidant, you neutralise 5 milligrams of a toxin in your body, free radical. If you turn these enzymes on and get them going through NRF2, you're actually neutralising 1 million toxins every minute in every cell of your body. How good is that? The second thing that this particular NRF2 gene does is that it downregulates all the excessive inflammation in your body. I'm talking it downregulates interleukin 1, interleukin 6, TNF-alpha, homocysteine, LDL cholesterol, C-reactive protein, the acute marker that precedes all chronic disease, including cancer. One of the issues with taking a pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory is it operates by knocking out something in your inflammation system so you don't inflame. But then you can't inflame. It knocks it out. Whereas if you can just downregulate, get your body to downregulate your inflammation, the excessive inflammation, and reset it back to normal. Because the body does get panicky sometimes. There's so many jobs to do, it just throws its hands up, turns all the inflammatory markers on and goes hell for leather and locks it in. And that's when we start also getting sick. Mm-hmm. So the NRF2 downregulates all the serious markers. The third thing it does is that it upregulates over 1,700 other genes that are your immune system. We're all operating on, about a third of our immune system, which is why people have said to me, I can't believe I've got cancer, I feel great. And I'm saying, your body can't detect it, it's not fighting it, there's no symptoms. So turning up your immune system's got to count for something, I think. And I'm just talking about the sulforaphane delivered from eating juicing the broccoli or having broccoli sprouted powder, as long as it's got the live enzyme in it. Again, cooking your broccoli kills the enzyme.
Yeah. Now, I don't know whether you mentioned it before, but you've mentioned it to me previously. The new discovery that you've made in your research, can you just share that with us?
What I've discovered that others have discovered, basically, I've come across an extract. It's a concentrated extract from the herb astragalus, actually. And that this is the most exciting thing. This is, I think, what a time to be alive. This particular extract, which you can get over the internet, anyone can. It used to be exorbitantly expensive, $25,000 for a few months' supply. Now it's very affordable for most people. This particular extract, what it does, I have to backtrack just slightly here. What we've discovered with genetics is that on the end of all our chromosomes, there's genetic material that does nothing. It's like full stops, if you like, on the end of our genes, and they're called telomeres. This was discovered by Elizabeth Blackthorne and a couple of her students. But basically the telomeres, what they've discovered, and there's so many different science reports I could share, but I'll cut it down to the chase. What they've discovered is that older people have shorter telomeres, sick people have shorter telomeres. Now, they've also discovered that if you increase telomeres, you actually reverse aging. Because we now know that our cells don't have to age, they're actually turned down. So this is the most exciting thing, and she in fact won a Nobel Prize for this, to discover that if you lengthen telomeres, you can actually reverse the effect of aging in your body, because you turn everything back on again, you turn it all back up. And you can do that if you produce an enzyme called telomerase. This one particular product that they have, it's the only one we know that does this universally in the body, because we can do it individually with certain herbs to affect certain tissues and organs. But this one product upregulates the gene system-wide that increases telomerase in every cell in your body. So it actually reverses aging. How exciting is that? That's
quite amazing to think.
It is amazing.
That we can do this. Now, you did share with me one other time about a piece of research that was done on mice that I think was particularly interesting.
That was one of the telling ones. That was one of the most exciting ones. They had some very old mice I'm saying mice that had sort of, diabetic type malfunctions, and they were nearly blind, and they were pretty old and slow. And what they did with these mice is they treated them with this very particular extract from the astragalus that I'm talking about, and over a period of 3 months, not only had these mice become younger physically, and they were healthy and they could see and they were more active, they also became fertile again and produced normal offspring. Now, that was a question I had to ask myself: do I want to do periods again? It's a question a lot of women are going to ask themselves. But yes, that was one of the most amazing experiments. They've also, with illness, our telomeres are also shortened. So increasing the length of telomeres in certain cells, like your brain cells, for example, means that you can repair brain cells, you can repair brain tissue, you can bring brain function back. I've been taking a herbal product now called Age-Defying Vitality for about 18 months or more, and talk about turn your brain back on, that's the first thing that happened, and muscle strength. So we've known for some time certain herbs and combinations will address certain particular functions in the body and reverse the effects of aging in it. But what we have here now with the telomeres and the telomerase is we have the knowledge, and they've done this, and they're doing it constantly. They've reversed the age of cells back to stem cell. And so now we've got the potential. I was just reading a book by called The Immortality Edge by a few well-known doctors. You can Google for that, The Immortality Edge. And they're talking now about when you go back to the stem cells and reverse cells to that place, you can actually rapidly grow organs, skin. You can now, what we're talking about within the next few years, and this is exciting, if we have a couple of your cells, we can actually reverse the age into stem cell formation. You won't have to harvest them anymore, and then we can regrow you another heart or a lung. How amazing is that?
Wow.
We can. These are the experiments that they're doing now, and it's from your own body. There's no need for medicines that suppress immune response to a transplant anymore, or there won't be.
Okay.
How exciting.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Spare parts even. But the important thing, this is the thing that I would stress, it's not enough just to live a very, very long time. You need your health. Mm-hmm. And so, to be able to manifest a lifestyle and nutritional response daily to give you your first best self and your first best health is really what I'm working towards, with many people, because you can get the anti-aging products now, but the specific ones, you can go online and get that.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Well, what we might do next is just I'll get you to describe. I will really just say what you would offer someone who walked in the door here. What you would start with, what the process would be, and if they wanted to go down the genetic mapping path, how would they go to do that?
That's a very good question, actually. Mostly just to take the mystery out of it, because it's a very straightforward process, and also just to reassure those men that may watch this that I have never told anyone not to drink beer, so please don't worry. But anyway, getting back to it, the process that I employ really is the first thing that we need to do is take an assessment of where you are right now. And that's what I do with this equipment. I see where things are not functioning correctly or perfectly, and take action to redress that immediately. I'm also, every time I meet with someone for the first time, I'm invariably talking about the foundation that needs to be created in our bodies to maintain health. And there's two primary factors. One is your body temperature. There's a quick test I can show you how to do to see if your core temperature is okay. 80% of people over 40, their core temperature does drop a little bit, and that also slows down metabolism. As you can imagine, it's like driving your car cold all the time. Using more fuel, it's a bit, hit and miss, and it doesn't sound too good, and you're probably putting a lot of extra stuff on your spark plugs. But anyway, body temperature is one thing. The second one, though, which is massively important for foundational health, is the alkalinity in your body. And this is something that is so important and so overlooked, generally speaking, in health practices currently. And without it, it doesn't matter what we do, you're not going to stay healthy, because inside the human body we need pH above 7. Our blood pH is 7.4. If it becomes 7.2 or 7.6, you're dead. A lot of people don't understand that their pH of cancer starts in the range of 6.6. Now that's not much below a pH of 7, which is neutral. It's just slightly acid, but it's enough to actually create a circumstance in your body where cancer could thrive. So I always talk about basic lifestyle activity to maintain alkalinity or restore alkalinity in the body, and we do that through minerals, mineral salts. Salts neutralise acids, and that's why it's very, very important when you talk about diet. We used to have 80% sort of foraging for veggies and fruit, and 20% was our meat. We occasionally killed the saber-toothed tiger, if you like. Now we farm our saber-toothed tigers, our cows. We milk them, we eat them, we turn the milk into cheese, into tofu, into cream, and our veggies, if you like, they're virtually, as I've said, there's no minerals in the soil. So even if you had the standard meat and 3 veg, you're not getting what you need. We must supplement with mineral salts. It's just not in the food chain. And these are the sorts of starting places that I deal with. And once we've assessed your body and what's going on with you, and I've taken specific action to respond to that, I'm also saying you need to alkalise. And that's another benefit of having that juice I described first thing in the morning. Lots of minerals, lots of enzymes, lots of vitamins, and they're raw and they're very, very vital. The other thing, of course, is that we have chemicals and everything, and that can we need to compensate for that. So that's where we start, and essentially most people I only see once or twice. That's for people who are in fairly good health and they've come in because things are just starting to go wrong. They want to know why, and my mission, as I see it, is to empower people with information and specific information for them to begin to redress the imbalances in their body and to have enough education to know how to maintain good health. Then, if you want to go further, or if you have an existing chronic degenerative disease, and most come from some sort of inflammatory base, I would probably recommend a gene profile. I do a general health one and an expanded one, and I would really prefer to do that for people who have existing conditions, because it's not the label, it's how it came about. And when we can restore the processes in your body and bring down the inflammation and get your detoxification working really well and getting your blood flowing properly into your brain and other places, the pathway to health becomes, a very easy, much easier one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the process.
Right, okay. And so do people have to come and see you, or can you treat a certain amount of things over the phone or through the internet?
For people who are sick, and a lot of people also want to know what's going on, they're eating things and it's making them bloat and feel bad and it's all starting to go wrong, or they're getting a lot of acid reflux, which is the start of, of a tipping point, if you like, where things can go badly. For people who have got those kind of conditions, I probably need to see them. For people who are in fairly good health or in good health and want great health, I can deal with you over the Skype or the internet, and I can send you a DNA profiling kit if that's what you'd like to do. And from there I can even debrief you. You get a hard copy result that I can post you, and then we can either over the phone or over the Skype or internet chat, we can actually debrief what's going on with you specifically and how to design your life and your lifestyle for extraordinary health. So in some circumstances I probably need to see people. In others, if I probably over the years there's been enough experience that I've had now that I can probably anticipate what's going on from conversations. But if you are quite unwell, or if you have an existing chronic degenerative disease, I probably would like to see you.
Mm-hmm. Would you only need to see someone once if they live a long way away, or would you need to see them regularly?
They're living a lot. I have a lot of clients already that are in Western Australia and New South Wales and Queensland. And yes, if they're over visiting relatives or whatever, I see them. That first initial profiling and testing on this machine, not even the DNA profile, just the testing on the machine, gives me a good understanding of where they're at, and I can certainly go from there. And I do phone consultations with existing clients quite regularly.
Mm-hmm. And you work here and in Point Lonsdale.
That's correct. I work in Clinic 101 at 101 Bellarine Highway down in Point Lonsdale with a great group of women, mostly women down there, who cover many different modalities. And here in Ballarat, yes, is the primary clinic for the time being.
What's your address here?
This is 520 Mare Street, which is a main street in central Ballarat for those who are not local. Pretty easy to find, and within sort of 3 blocks from the railway station for those who want to train it in.
All right, well, I think unless you've got anything else that you want to add, I think that's about all I've got to ask today. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we finish?
I would just like to say to those people, for example, who have been ill and never quite been able to get better and have been taking medications and then over time aren't recovering, or those that are having trouble and no matter what you do you can't lose weight. If you've got those issues and you're struggling, I'd just like to say to you, now that we have the DNA, access to your DNA and your DNA profiling, pretty much it's less than 2% of diseases or conditions that can't be reverse engineered. Less than 2%. You're probably likely to be in the 98%. Take heart. This is a great time to be alive.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Louise.